back some of it because you're basically repricing the option.
Yeah, but as long as if there's a net credit, then
There's always going to be. Yeah, you just all you're asking for is theta, right? You didn't actually change the price. You just pushed it further out, so you're only changing the theta.
Yeah, we were talking about rolling options, and you want to frame your question again?
yeah. So VITALY sold some Enphase puts like in the summer of 2023, I believe, and he got paid, I think at the time, like $50 a contract or a share or something. It was really good premium, but they were for January 2025. Enphase hasn't necessarily played out exactly that way yet. So my question was, hey, have you rolled them, or are you going to roll them once you get to like December?
No. So the point, I think you know this, that you got to handle that sort of early enough where the value is still there, that you can actually keep some of the money that I was paid for the put, obviously.
Right.
So yes, I rolled it to 2026, and most of them were at $100 strikes, which to this day, I mean, the only time it came really close was when Enphase was at 73.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, I might actually get these shares. And then it just went back up to $100. So there's no way somebody's giving me their shares, because if they paid me $30 a share, even until 2026, it has to be under $70.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in 2026, yeah, if it's, I'm pretty sure it'll be above 100 by 2026. So you got paid. Now, the only problem here is you have to leave your capital tied up for the next 2 years.
Well, yeah. So if you have a big enough account, then obviously you're allowed to use margin. I know that's not a great thing, but that way you're not using your own capital.
Correct.
And there's no interest on it. So I'm not paying interest on doing that. But if I had to buy 100 shares of Enphase, that's not a problem. So
right. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. A lot of people don't know when you're selling options on margin. I mean, it's way different than buying on margin. It's a totally different game.
Yeah,
but it is risky to manage it
because you have based on your account, you have a margin balance that you can use.
Correct.
So I'm using nowhere near what my margin is allowed to be used. So I think I'm being relatively safe here. This is not financial advice for people, but I'm not really worried about, I think I have 4, 5, 6. I don't know. I haven't checked recently, but there's between 4 and 6 put options at $100 strike approximately.
Yeah. In worst case, if you're assigned, you have the actual cash to pay for them. It's not like you're going to use margin.
Yeah.
To pay for them, right? Yeah.
Okay. That's actually a really good use for margin.
Yeah, it's a great use.
That's almost like you can imagine that even being like the reason why it was created, and then it snowballed into something else.
Well, you don't pay interest on this because it's only so there's it's not like I'm taking a loan out. It's more like the options balance that I'm allowed to use against, against my stocks.
There's high interest on margin if you were to buy.
No. So there is interest on margin. People are getting, if you use the margin, if you actually buy something and go long and you're using the margin. But when you're selling a put, you haven't actually, as long as you can buy the shares, based on your account, you're given a certain value that you can buy the shares. And so I have an account that gives me a certain number basically that they'll front me up to, several hundred grand, whatever it is. And, but you're not paying anything for that. It's not like I'm actually using the margin. It's just like I don't know the term is
collateral. It's basically
Let me give you an example. If you were going to sell a put on SoFi for $700, 100 shares at $7, if you sell the put on margin, that means you're using your broker's $700. You're getting that premium up front, and you're not paying any interest on that because it's on your margin balance. Now, if I were to buy SoFi $700 worth of it straight up today, and I don't have $700, and E-Trade or Robinhood or Fidelity's given me 700, that comes with a nice 15% interest. But selling it is a totally different game. Now, if you get assigned those shares on SoFi, then you need to have the cash to buy them. That's when
it goes on your margin. That's when it can actually go on margin. So let's say 100 shares I get assigned at $100. That means they would take out 10 grand for that contract. And if I didn't have cash in the account, that would go on my margin account. Right. And then I would be paying interest at 7.25% or whatever it is right now.
Correct.
But I haven't paid $1 of interest doing this. So
the reason there's no interest is because the shares and cash you have is the collateral. So if you have a big account, obviously, you'll get more margin balance.
But it's better than having to tie up actual cash.
Correct. Yep. All right, let's talk about Tesla. Oh boy. So
I'm really trying not to talk about Tesla anymore.
We gotta talk about this one today. Some random dude named Drew Buglino or whatever. I don't know who the hell this guy is. and then Rohan Patel, Chris's brother, decide they both want to leave Tesla. These are apparently two senior execs at the company. They've been here, Drew for 18 years, Rohan for 8 years. And I don't think it's bullish. I think there's some fishy stuff going on, but this, along with the macro, kind of tanked Tesla about 6% today. Let's start with VITALY. Bullish, bearish. What did you think about this news today?
Extremely bearish. And I think from what I've heard, Baglino left deciding yesterday. Okay. Or whenever he decided, pretty fast. We don't know all the details, but it sounds like, to me, it honestly sounds like they expected the Model 2 to be a real car to come out and not to go all into robotaxi. And I think Elon is probably going to try to go mostly all into robotaxi and might not actually release the Model 2 as news came out today. So I'm extremely bearish about that because I think you can do both. You can release that platform car while they finish FSD, because now in 2 years, that this is the clock now. In 2 years, we were going to have this Model 2, right? Now we better have FSD in 2 years done. Like, that's it. I don't know if that's going to happen. So I'm actually very bearish on this news.
Do you think there's any way these guys left because, so Farzad's take was they have a ton of Tesla shares, they want to go on a beach and just chill. Do you think that's the reason they left?
I think that's part of it, because once they weren't getting sort of what they thought was going to happen, this is all speculation on my part because someone said they were fired. I don't know. I don't know if they were fired, but I think I'd be like, oh, well, I have $100 million. Do I really have to hang around another 18 years doing this? And that would be like, I don't need to do this anymore, you know? So I think that's a big thought process here, because if I already made all my money on Tesla, like, that's it. If I made enough, I wouldn't hang around. So these guys definitely don't have to hang around. And if they feel they've accomplished the mission enough, which they did, EVs are a real thing. Everybody's buying them. So the mission Elon set out initially, I think they've accomplished it, right? EVs are going to take over, whether it's takes 5 years or 10 years or 15 years, EVs are going to take over. I don't think anyone's even arguing this anymore. So I think they've accomplished their mission and they want to relax as well. But the impetus to quit could have been because of Elon changing his mind, you know?
Okay, I'll give my quick take and then Carlos, I'll let you go. I think it's really weird. Two senior executives are leaving right before the biggest announcement that Tesla's supposedly ever going to do, which is robotaxis. That's what the company was built for. It's this self-driving FSD model. It's basically like Shyam Sankar, the CTO of Palantir, leaving today, or any of your favorite companies just like up and leaving. Like, it just does not make sense to me. I think it's very fishy. Their announcements were weird on Twitter. Elon didn't even respond in a happy way. He just said, thank you for your work with a period. That also felt really weird. That's not how you kind of publicly say goodbye to someone. One guy had a weird laughing emoji in his goodbye tweet. And I thought that was weird, dude. Everything about this smells super weird. I heard from some Tesla employees that this was all of a sudden. Vitaly might have heard the same as well from some people. So I think this is bearish. I don't know how much it's going to affect the stock, though, because the stock is sold off so much. So I kind of think bad news is baked in. I don't know if the stock's going to 140, but this does feel a little bit bearish.
We should just get Rango and he'll tell us the real answer. So he said no, but what's the real answer?
And then he'll get his severance the next day. Email.
Listen, if you're going to come on and say no, but not give us an answer, you know what? Go hide in the corner. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. All right, Carlos, what do you think?
Well, when I ask myself of all of the different possible outcomes of this situation, I would say there's more of them are potentially negative. But I'm saying this doesn't necessarily mean that it's negative. I think Tesla goes through these periods where they trim the fat every couple of years, right? So they'll look at the lowest 5% of performers and they'll just do some, some layoffs at the company and streamline. But I think this is a signal that like Tesla internally, or at least Elon is making a statement that like the company's fundamentally changing what it was, right? If he's going all in on robotaxi, it might be earlier than what these guys would have wanted. If you've given 18 years of your life and you're holding 32,000 shares of Tesla right now, and from what I understand, like a lot of them had new children, so they're starting new families. It's really hard. You have these conversations with your spouse. That's like, okay, I'll let you do 10 years or whatever, but then at a certain point, you got to come family. And I think their goals at the company were accomplished. But then I ask myself, well, what about the timing of it? Yeah, it is kind of sketchy. You would think these guys should stay on all the way through 8.8. It's the big robotaxi event. Why would they do this now? And I think the initial knee-jerk reaction is to say it's negative, but also if these guys are letting Elon know that they're done, that they're tired, or they're fundamentally at odds with where he wants to say go with the company, I think as Elon, if you're ask yourself if you're the CEO, I think you would say maybe it's better we just cut this now and rip the Band-Aid off now and get the replacements in now, and we ramp up leading to the 8.8 event and have this behind us, right? And not have guys there that are kind of looking at the door or have at least let you know they want to leave. And that's why I think people are you're getting this mix of reactions, because there's a million ways that you could look at this. But I think on the earnings call, they're going to ask him about it and we'll get some more insight. But I think the public thing, the way that it's been displayed publicly has been a little strange. I agree with you guys.
So Dan Ive said if we don't get any clarification on this by Q1, things are going to get bad. What do you think this means for Q1? Or what do you think this means for guidance and outlook? Because as Vitaly said, if these guys weren't on board with the robotaxi, but Elon's kind of pushing it through, do you think that means we're pivoting to robotaxi? Like, is that the message?
Well, they wouldn't have, if they learned anything from Cybertruck, they've learned that you cannot announce a new vehicle until it's ready to go. You can't do another Cybertruck 2, 3, 4, 5 years before the truck is out, right? Before the vehicle's out. So if they're having issues of getting that ramped up, but for some reason they can get the robotaxi ramped up. Again, we have to see what they actually unveil that day to see how much of a difference is this dedicated robotaxi from what we're thinking is the Model 2. I know a lot of us are thinking it's like a steering wheel and some fucking pedals. Like, what's the big deal? But maybe they are fundamentally different vehicles. This is where we have to wait and see what the event is to know for sure.
I do want to bring up something because I'm actually subscribing to full self-driving. I think it's great, and for $99, it's perfect for me because, like I said, it had to be cheap enough, but also better than autopilot, which it is. So what's interesting though is I don't see how they're going to have robotaxis unless they fix this in 2 years, which is possible. Who knows? But if you're driving in the rain, the car warns you, right? So even if you have autopilot, it warns you. But then it kicks you out. If the rain becomes too much, full self-driving kicks you out of full self-driving.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be driving it. So how are you going to have a robotaxi network, assuming they fix this, if it's raining on you, which happens in places like the Northeast all the time? So that's a little bit weird. I mentioned the reverse thing before. I know it's being worked on, but there's all these little things around there. So I'm hoping Elon is smart enough to still take the advice of the people around him and say, look, let's release the car. Let people afford the actual vehicle and then scale up the network, obviously, which I know is going to happen eventually. I could see it getting better and better, but it's just so many little things that keep adding up. And I'll give you another thing, since I've been driving it so much. It likes to aim for rocks. Okay. So I'm literally driving and it ignores squirrels. So I had to brake today because a squirrel was in the street. I'm like, hey, I don't want to kill a squirrel. Okay. So a human could see a squirrel, and apparently I'm not sure if it's seeing it because there's no visualization. I don't know what it's seeing. So maybe it is seeing, but it's gray. A squirrel is gray. The concrete is gray. So I don't know if it's getting confused by that. And like, I have these boulders around the neighborhood and it just aims for them. I don't know why it's aiming for them.
When you
If there's a
say
giant
they're on the
boulder
road or like hanging on the wall.
No, so like, in the woods, people put boulders as their side, right? As like the delineation of their property.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times there's these little curves that are really sharp and they're annoying as F. I mean, humans will probably hit this eventually. Don't get me wrong, but it literally like, it does not turn left fast enough. And it's sort of going straight at the boulder. I'm like, so a lot of times
you thought it was going to crash.
If you go slower, if you slow it down,
Sure.
But as a human now, I'm slowing it down to like 20 miles an hour, and then it sort of avoids it. But if you're going regular speed, 35, it's like a 50-50 chance you're going to hit that boulder. So, and I've veered several times already. I'm just saying there's a lot of these little issues that happen in the real world all the time. So this is why I hope Elon, and that's why I was very upset because I'm actually using full self-driving. I like it, but I could see that it's still going to take a lot of time before there's nobody in the car. Still useful, $99. I'm totally down with it. I'm going to pay for it. But that issue persists until I see like I don't have to be in that in the driver's seat.
I could see them on 8.8 announcing the software and like announcing the beta and allowing current customers to come in and start seeding the beta, and it being beta or at least early launch software. I could see them saying, we're going to run this thing, we're going to roll it out, and we're going to run it or allow it to operate in areas where we think it's going to have the highest probabilities of success. And if there's like something like bad weather, we're going to just like, shut the network down basically for safety reasons.
What happens to Waymo and KRIS? Does anybody know? What happens to them
I was
when there's
wondering
bad
about that
weather?
because, you saw when Waymo and KRIS had just like one issue with the cell towers, with whatever it was, communication, basically the whole network stopped. So I'm sure there are fail safes in there where you're not going to have the vehicle driving in unsafe conditions for anyone to drive, let alone an autonomous vehicle. So I don't think it's going to be the full fleshed out robotaxi network day one, but I think what you'll start seeing is the seeds of it. And my thinking is if they're going for the robotaxi first, there's a reason why they don't want these vehicles to be sold to customers initially. They want to prove this thing out because I think just like the bot, they're trying to spend money on this thing where they think everyone's going to be going soon. And it didn't make sense when we first started seeing the bot. It seemed really silly. It was somebody in a stupid suit. But now there's real players and real money being thrown at this, and they're a good number of years ahead. I think that's the same thing that's happening with robotaxis. After this event, I think within a few 6 months, you're going to start seeing more startups taking this seriously, and you're going to see more of the other big tech companies trying to come in and get their piece of the pie. Even Nvidia's getting in on this. I mean, it would make sense for them to get in on this. So I think what you're going to see is the launch of this narrative. And it's not going to seem in a few months, it's not going to seem as awkward to be having these conversations in mainstream media all the time. And that's why I think if he gets those robo-taxis out first, I think that will actually increase demand for the compact vehicle when it's actually able to be sold. Because if you think about it, they're going to be low volume vehicles initially. So if they can only make 100 of these vehicles, that's a great way to test out the robotaxi network and prove it out to people. It also helps you get some of these owners from like Lyft and Uber that are currently doing rideshare to migrate over to your platform because they can be an early adopter. So I think that's what at least I'm thinking it is.
So you thought the price cut was bullish on Friday?
Say what?
You thought the price cut was bullish, the FSD price cut?
Yeah. I think it's bullish.
No, but the price cut is, I'm talking, that price cut is bullish, by the way, because long term, I've said $99 if everybody pays for it and they have a 20 million fleet over time, obviously. I'm not talking about 1 year, 20 million, 50 million cars, 100 million, and everyone's paying $99. I'd say that's pretty bullish. That's a SaaS business, and the multiple goes up, by the way.
They listened to you. You suggested that 2 weeks ago.
I did suggest it. That's right.
Elon
watches the pod.
They would not be setting up a situation to have so much new incoming data if they really hadn't solved the compute problem, right? So that to me tells me that they've solved the compute problem, or at least they're accurate when they report that, because now they're just asking for the data. And so I think now the data that they're getting helps them increase their already, what do you want to say, unassailable lead in terms of the data that's needed, and it helps them grow exponentially. And I do think that they're going to use this information. For example, if they know they're going to make 100 of these robotaxis, and you look at all the data you're getting from the fleet, you say, what's the areas where we had the least number of interventions, right? We had the least number. It's this area. Maybe we want to roll out the first robotaxis in this area. Maybe
it's like cornfield in Ohio, no intervention.
No one's
go in.
Do you think 8.8 is an actual reveal, or it's like hey, in 5 years this will launch like Cybertruck?
I think it's the reveal. That's part of what I think could be going on behind the scenes.
No. You think they're launching it on 8.8, like actually launching a robotaxi network?
What I could see is not the vehicle. I'm saying the network. They could say the network is live, and the next update on the Tesla app, you're going to see it. I'm saying, and then if you're in the network, you can apply for to be early on.
That means before August 8th, they would have to literally solve full self-driving.
No. Because again, I think they would be
Carlos, are you using it yet on a daily basis? Do you have it?
Well, no, I have the autopilot. I put in a service request.
No, but I'm saying that it is not ready. And maybe Rangu can answer a little bit of this, but how come they don't see the rocks? Okay, but is it a LiDAR issue? Because maybe Rangu could tell us. Is it a LiDAR problem where Waymo has LiDAR and they don't? Is that an issue? I don't know.
The first sets of this robotaxi is going to be exactly what you're experiencing now, except with a fare. You're going to be in the front seat. You're going to be supervising it. So it's like an Uber driver. It's basically Tesla's giving them a choice. Yeah, Tesla's giving them a choice. You just sign up on the robotaxi network. You're on as one of our supervised drivers. You're basically doing what you're doing for Uber, but the car's doing the driving. You're monitoring it. You're in an EV. It's cheaper. And then eventually, or you can do this for our network too. You know what I'm saying? That's how I think it's all going to be rolled out in phases. And I think that's how it's going to start. Exactly what you're doing now, exactly what you're seeing Holmar's catalog doing. He's doing Uber rides using FSD. And I think that's part of what this 8/8 event is to start getting people used to that idea. And then over time, as it hits certain milestones, which according to, what was it, the master plan part 2, 6 billion miles is the point where he feels that's enough miles to convince the regulators that we've solved this, right? And they're at, I don't know how many they're at now, 1 billion or something, and they're going to pass 2 billion within 2 or 3 months. So he's extrapolating out how long he thinks he's going to get to 6 billion miles. So again, I think it seems like crazy we're talking about this now, but in 6 months, I think it's going to be as much in the narrative as we're talking about robots now, and we weren't a few years ago, you know.
Okay, someone woke up and decided to come to work.
Morning, sunshine.
Dude, when do you sleep, dude? This guy is just.
What was the pay again? Do we dock 25 cents?
Your eyes not even open. This guy is
Paid by the minute.
okay. Well, we got to talk a lot about macro because the market fell and all this stuff. But let's do your take on Tesla. Why do you think these execs left today?
Me?
Yeah, you. Yeah, we talked for 30 minutes. It's you now.
Executives left? No, I'm just kidding. So I think a couple of things. There's a culture shift happening at Tesla, and sometimes you don't really want to be part of it. You know, it might be a little bit too much pressure on the family life and stuff. So, you know, and some of these guys, they've been there for almost a decade. I know
18 years.
18 years, bro.
Well, one of them was like 8, the other one was 18, right?
Yeah,
So
well,
it's one of those things that, you know, people move on. But this does indicate something to me that delivery numbers are going to be slowing down significantly next couple of quarters, and that's really impacting them, you know. So they're making some hard decisions over at Tesla, which is fine. That's typically what happens. I would just say right now they're just not in a very favorable macro condition, and so and not to mention, I think EVs are not necessarily in favor. There's a lot of issues with the Cybertruck happening at the same time. So I don't know. Tesla's got a room to go down, basically.
I can't disagree.
I don't know how far it's going to go down, but you know, I mean, the 150 is definitely like in play now, but maybe
Well, I
it
think
goes
we're only
down
12 bucks away, right?
Look, but honestly, it should be 125 right now. If you look at what drove it down to 100, but with this, it should be at 125 right now. So it's actually been incredibly resilient this year.
I agree.
Either that, or it's like everybody that wanted to sell at this level already did last time, and so you just got a bunch of new people that are willing to hold.
Yeah.
But I don't
wow.
know. That stock is like Bitcoin; it does whatever the hell it wants, man.
So I was gonna share Elon's profile because he had a new profile picture
With
that
the
people.
auto?
No, he just changed it just now.
Oh,
How come he didn't lose his check mark? It's not cool.
motherfucker.
He gets to change it automatically. So thank you, Chris, for the $2 super chat. If you guys didn't see, Elon had a profile picture of the Walter Isaacson cover where it said the word auto at the bottom of it, and no one knew why, but he just changed it, so there's no mystery anymore.
No, someone posted something about that it had to do with autonomous.
Yeah, auto and me, autonomy.
some shit.
Is he wearing the Iron Man suit? What is that?
Yeah.
That was his Halloween costume one year.
Okay.
Okay, so let's talk about macro. S&P took a dump. Market took a dump. Iran, Israel stuff happened over the weekend, so we got to discuss some geopolitics and how that implicated the markets. Oil actually was down today, and then Israel, that was not supposed to or was perceived as not going to respond, they called to Biden at 12 p.m. and they said, no, we're striking these motherfuckers back. And then oil started to rise back up again because the market got scared that this crisis is going to keep going higher. So we got the S&P at 504, down 1.25%, haven't had a 2% down day in almost 6-7 months now. As you can see on the right-hand side of my screen, pretty much everything is red. So I guess we'll start with you, Vitaly. What were your thoughts on the geopolitical events over the weekend and how it impacts the market? And do you just think this is a sell in May type of go away where, 15 days until May, and we're going to have to see some short-term pain in the markets?
I think you just said it. First of all, we're coming up where we need to pull back, and we'll look for any reason to get it, okay? Because usually if you look at what happens during conflict, stocks don't do that bad. So once again, I know you were tweeting about it all weekend, I believe, but I was like, I don't know. It sounds like this guy could be very wrong. He's tweeting about geopolitical events. And a lot of times the market just doesn't see it that way, you know? So obviously it ended off red today, but I don't think it's because of that. It just needed any reason. And we need a period where we've gone up so much on the S&P. A pullback is healthy. It was coming. We need any reason to like crack and go down a bit.
Yeah,
I
if
call it
you
the
notice,
give me a reason. I
Say it
call it the give me a reason. It's like
Yeah.
just give me any reason.
Yep.
Because everyone,
Any reason.
We've been playing musical chairs for a while. Valuations are pretty rich. All the money's kind of been swollen into the Mag 7. I think people we all feel like we're overdue for this. And so give me a reason, any one little reason, and it gives them cover, political cover, to say why they sold, But I think overall people are still bullish because they know that there's a lot of financial shenanigans happening right now with EPS to keep the markets going up. And we know that we're in an election year, et cetera, right? There's still, I guess, hope that we're going to get a rate cut. So I don't know. Sell in May, guys. I'm going to hibernation.
Chris, your thoughts on the macro? One thing I will say is we were having a great day until the Times of Israel reported that Israel's striking back. So I think we would have been to green if not for that.
Not for war. It's a big deal.
War. Well, Biden called him up on Sunday and he was like, "You're not going to do shit, right?" And Netanyahu was like, "Yeah, we'll be fine." And then at 12 p.m., Times of Israel's like, "Netanyahu plans to go attack." And then
the
market was like, "All right, well, fuck this shit." And we're buying Lockheed. Chris, what were your thoughts today?
I mean, I agree with these guys. We were due for some level of a correction. The valuations got a little too rich. The only thing I'd say is, the market runs on expectations. So if the expectations is we're going to get 6 cuts, the market's going to rally. If we're going to get 3 cuts, we're going to rally, but maybe not as much. And now the talk has shifted to, hey, we might get a rate hike. So we're kind of a 360 that happened within the last 30 to 60 days. So a lot of companies which could have benefited from the rate cuts, they're basically on the other side now. But I think this really does open up good opportunities, throughout the summer. I do think that you have to let the bottoming process take a hold. Right now, we're not there. We've still got some room to go down. So I'd say this is the time to be very cautious in this market. But I think people who know what they're doing are going to do well. This is a stock pickers market. This is no longer just, hey, just buy the index and go away, And regarding the Israel-Iran thing, I don't think it's a nothing burger, bro. I really hope they kill each other at this point. Really, I'm getting tired of this. It's just how many fucking centuries of this are you going to keep up, bro?
Are you saying finance junkies support genocide?
No.
Is it a genocide if everyone's dead, though?
I meant it metaphorically, not like I hope they literally nuke each other to death. But I'm just saying metaphorically. I'm getting tired of every day. It just seems like we're seeing
Well, it was a show, wasn't it? Did anything actually make it through? I heard one person actually got hit by
a 7-year-old girl.
99.8 whatever percent.
I mean, it sounds like this is a show. This is a show being put on for the world, obviously.
Well, so here's
did you see the Brooklyn Bridge today?
No.
They did.
They protested this shit?
Oh my God! They shut down the whole Brooklyn Bridge.
What they were?
It was funny because the news was on the helicopter was over there, just reporting, showing the protesters, and the police come in like, "Whoa, police is getting a bit rough with them."
Yeah.
But they didn't know how to call it because the police are beating people up.
Pro-Palestinian protesters disrupt traffic.
Look it up on X. You'll see the videos. Yeah, that video. Yeah.
Damn,
it happened everywhere. It happened over.
See, if you want people to hate your cause, stop traffic. Okay, honestly, no one will be for your cause if you actually disrupt traffic. Okay, that's
okay. Well, here's the thing. So Iran says Israel.
First of all, stop saying Iran, dude.
Oh, sorry.
Iran. Okay.
First of all, I'm Middle Eastern.
Where did you run?
I want. Okay? I'm allowed to call it whatever I want. Okay.
Idea. It's India. So Iran. Just say it right, dude.
Idea is dumb. Iran is you can say Iran. Okay. Anyway,
to be fair, Amit gets a lot of words wrong on his stream.
Iran said Israel got their consulate in Syria, and so they had to attack. They attacked. They warned Israel for 8 hours, so it wasn't really we're full out war. We're gonna attack you. And so Biden was like, "Look, you guys both got a shot at each other. Chill out." And then Netanyahu was like, okay. And then this morning he consulted with his war cabinet, and they were basically like, nah, they got to pay for this. And so I think Chris's point is valid, because at some level, like, someone has to stop, or else you're literally both just going to destroy each other. And then Iran today said, hey, if you guys hit us again, we're going to use weapons we haven't used before. Some people are speculating, is that a nuke? Is that a nuke? Like, because if it's a nuke,
Didn't the British Army attack as well?
no one else.
No. The British, the Jordanians, and the U.S. basically were targeting the drones from, because they had warned, like, prior warning the entire time, so they were able to take down a lot of the drones coming overhead, and I think the Iron Dome, like, kind of took over the rest. So it's kind of one of those things where, the more people know about it, like, ahead of time, the more they can prepare, get systems ready, and everything else. So, yeah, like I said, I think all of this is just whatever.
I'm cynical, and I do think it was a show. Like Vitaly was saying, I think it's a bit of a theater. Because then it's like, look at all these bullets we wasted. Well, we got to go buy some more. They're out of bullets. You know what I mean? Like, we're already at, like, I think they've already sent everything over. Like, our reserves are like nothing. So
do you think this becomes a real war, or no? Like a real back and forth between Israel and Iran and Iran?
How much? Oh, you mean like official?
Yeah, because
I think everyone.
Some people are saying Israel wants this to become a war so that the U.S. like gets involved, right? And then if the U.S. gets involved, Iran is like, all right, Russia, China, U.S. is in. Like, we need to, like, this is the potential.
The U.S. is
this is your powder keg. This is
the theories that I was reading today. I don't think it's going to happen, but like, if this is what the market has to price in, like, this is going to get ugly. Right now I think it's okay, but
I think all sides are happy with the way that the confrontation's taken place. It allows everyone to get their political things met, and everyone's happy with the way that the optics are right now. And I think it's sort of like it's good for business, right? How long it can continue this way, I don't know. But no, I don't think anyone's trying to escalate this and make this like an all-out ground war. No, I don't think that's what you want. A lot of it's narrative too. You got to keep that in mind, right? You got to keep in mind how it looks to the world, and so everyone's real mindful of that now.
And if Israel was going to attack, I'm not saying they won't. I don't know. Obviously, what they do internally, they can attack. But the way they're going about it, pronouncing it, this is happening.
Yeah.
Okay, this is going to happen in next week. Okay, so guys, get ready. We're going to send 30 drones. They're going to be right there. Okay.
Yeah, it's like a pay-per-view.
Both sides are posturing for this. Both sides.
I mean, it's ridiculous. I guess they have to do it as countries, but I don't know.
I asked a couple of people living in Israel, what do you think they should do? And most of them said, yeah, we got to fight back. And so I'm like, all right, well, if you guys support this shit, then.
But I understand the sentiment though, because they feel like they're being attacked now, right?
Yeah.
Well, all sides.
Yeah. I
was reading something regarding the news that, funny enough, was like, wow, this is actually really bullish for Palantir. So,
but we didn't pump today. We couldn't pump.
It was about all Palantir investors want is a nuclear war. That will really help them out. In fact,
we're gonna have a war. Might as well make it.
We're gonna have a war. I'm watching Fallout, by the way, and in Fallout, there's a company sort of like Palantir that makes vaults. I don't know if anyone's watching Fallout.
Vault-Tec. I've been watching.
And if you watch it. Vault-Tec, I haven't seen the whole series, but they're setting it up where Vault-Tec wants war because Vault-Tec makes vaults.
What a surprise! It's good for business.
It reminded me a lot about Palantir, honestly, and the Palantir investors like AMIT who keep, this is kind of good for us.
I did not say that, dude. I did not say
that. I think even, who was it? Jesse called you out on Twitter, being like, you should not be happy, or
no, you sounded too happy.
No, one of your haters, like a strong man, was like, this guy's happy. No, but hear me out. Listen to this. So the Houthis are like sending $2,000 drones, and the U.S. is shooting them down with like $1 million missiles. So it's this new sort of way of waging war. And so a lot of the battles that have been fought have been done with drones. And so they're now just trying to send money over there and get as many drones in the air as possible. And apparently Russia has a whole bunch of these drones. Anyway, I was researching a bit, reading some articles and watching some videos about this. And part of what Palantir has helped usher in is this idea that like AI and technology is actually the front line of war now, that it's no longer people. And if you look at the enrollments in the military, it's gone down a lot. And so part of what you need is to say augment that with robots. And so the good part about that is that if they've helped convert the face or the front lines of the battlefields to more digital and tech, it does mean that less soldiers will lose their lives, right? It also does mean that basically the best technology, the most money, it actually becomes very easy to have a competitive advantage over your adversary. So if this is a new way of waging war, you could actually argue that it's a better, safer way to wage war because it puts less lives at risk.
Yeah, there's only one problem with that though. The easier it is to push a button, the more likely it is that you'll do it. When you have the real cost of people like people actually dying, there's a lot less of a, hey, let's actually go into conflict. Like you look at this whole thing with the drones, because there is no risk to human life, like on your side, you don't mind launching 200 drones in one direction. But if you had 200 pilots that you were accountable for that had to go bomb another country, and if they die, they get it's a public relations nightmare. So it's one of those things that I do agree that there's a lot of people that don't want to be part of the military. If I was still like younger and you asked me, Chris, would you join the military again, I'd probably say no. Like I just don't feel like there is a valid justification for how the US approaches everything. Like when I was much younger, I used to believe a lot of what I saw, which is, oh, I'm defending freedom and I'm defending democracy and all this other stuff. And then over time, I became, I don't want to say I became cynical, but I realized that it was less about real freedom and real like fighting for justice and democracy. And I started to realize that no, this is just how the government wants to shape the world. And what is the government shaped by? It's shaped by all these contractors that are basically, paying defense contractors, paying to prolong things. There's always an incentive behind every decision that the government makes. And at the end of the day, I don't even think our government is really beholden to the people anymore. I think it's just corporations in the background, maybe some interest groups thrown in here and there pushing the buttons, and we just get to live the ramifications of everything that happens. I mean,
part of what came out with the Diddy files, we'll call them, is the Diddy files, is that basically they've got dirt on everybody, every single politician, I mean, all of them. And so that there's this, there's this narrative floating around that like, this is one of the reasons why our government is in this stalemate. You get a bunch of dirt on people and then you basically can control how they vote. You basically blackmail. So you wonder how many of these, even though you think about this, what's her name is in that, what's her name? Maxwell. She's in jail now, and we still don't know anybody that's on the Epstein list. You gotta wonder, like our politicians know. I think they know that what they're doing is not necessarily keeping our best interests in mind, but I have to wonder what they've got held over them that is forcing them to vote and act and support the legislation that they do.
So do you guys still think the market is going to suffer, even forget the war stuff, just like S&P, CPI, PPI was hot last week? Do you think S&P is going below 500 into that 480 range, I guess? Is what
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's guaranteed that it goes below that now. The market's caught wind. There's a trend now. So even if you do see a couple of up days here and there, the general market sentiment is we're in a downward spiral. Earnings are going to be a big either boost towards that narrative, or it's going to just slow things down. But I don't think that there's really much to it. I think right now you're getting this thing that I call the Anthony Noto effect from last year, where you had these CEOs come out and say, oh, there's going to be rate cuts at the end of the year. Everything's going to be great. And then they had to all backtrack. I mean, Anthony Noto was probably the most pronounced one to say, because he actually said, we're expecting 2 cuts. Like, who the fuck says that? Like, don't do that. Like, don't project things out like that. So I think a lot of companies, they're going to have to basically be very careful with how they word their earnings this year, where they say like, hey, listen, our outlook for the year is still strong, but we are facing near-term headwinds or some shit like that, where they're basically, keeping things very like even keel. And because of that, I think we go a little lower, and then hopefully Q3, Q4, we see some better numbers, in which case, the market will rally again. So I'd wait for max pessimism before really buying anything at this point.
Well, we dropped from neutral today, right? Now we're in fear. Not extreme.
We are in fear now. We are at 41. We were at 77 2 weeks ago.
Phew.
Futures are down.
That's down. That's a lot.
It's going to be interesting, dude. Okay, so we have a couple of earnings this week. Let's just talk about those. The big ones are Netflix, ASML, TSMC. Some of those are more semi-names. We'll talk about those when we get the numbers. But Netflix has done well this year. Do you think they beat by 5 million subs last quarter? No one expected that. The market was really happy. Do you think they beat again this quarter pretty heavily? Let's start with the shareholder of Netflix, VITALY. Go ahead.
I'm no longer a share. I sold my 5 shares a long time ago.
To buy pound?
I wouldn't be surprised if they beat, but honestly, when a market is downtrending, they have to have, I think, sort of massive beats. So if they come in a little bit above and everybody's expecting it, it doesn't mean it'll do well. So I wouldn't be buying Netflix right now. That's my point, especially at $600. I just would not be buying it.
That's true.
I don't think it matters when things are in a downtrend, which it feels like it's going into for a couple of months at least. I actually think I'm very positive on the end of the year. I think we're still in a bull market and we're going to probably 6,000 or so S&P, 5,800, whatever. But the next couple of months, it doesn't matter. Just be dollar cost averaging is my only advice into things you want as they tank.
Okay, Carlos, you think you have a unique insight into this because you're in this industry and you're seeing a lot of content companies struggle. Do you think Netflix is like the monopoly here that just crushes?
Well, they are effectively becoming monopolies along with like 5 or 6 other media companies. I mean, that's what's happening now. You're seeing a consolidation of these companies to streaming services, essentially going out of business, absorbing all the other companies, right? And then some of the cable TV companies are gone. So yeah, I don't know. I can't speak to the subscriber numbers of Netflix, but they should have a boatload of cash on hand because they just haven't been spending any money. So they should have a boatload of cash on hand, which should also be really good. It's good. That's what I think you would want to see.
Okay. Chris, any thoughts on the consolidation of streaming and Netflix being a winner here?
Not really. I haven't really kept up with the space much lately, so I don't really know.
See, this comment is completely wrong, and that's what Amit was telling me. I think anybody can overtake Netflix. No. Netflix is a monopoly, and no one's going to overtake Netflix just because they want to. That's not how this works. In fact, I think Amit's whole bull case is Robinhood has a UI monopoly.
Yeah. See, I was objectively wrong on Netflix 2 years ago because I didn't see the value of their streaming monopoly. I thought there was too much competition. With like Robinhood, there's a lot of brokerage competition, but at the end of the day, people go back to Netflix for a reason. They go to Robinhood for a reason. And VITALY was right. It's like there's premier level content that Paramount, HBO, these guys can't afford to do as much. They'll get one, Game of Thrones here and there, but they're not going to put up numbers every week like that. Like, by the way, I logged onto Netflix yesterday after a while. I watched The Matrix. I haven't seen The Matrix. I think in 10 years, I knew nothing about the movie other than red pill or blue pill. I still have 40 minutes left, so no one ruined it.
Oh my God, so no spoilers.
I've not seen the last 40 minutes, but it was pretty damn good the first hour. Pretty damn good. Keanu Reeves is pretty hot. I'm not going to lie. Sexy up. And then that other girl, she's hot too. I don't know her name, but
Trinity.
Do you know what The Matrix is?
So my interpretation of The Matrix is their argument is all of us are plugged into a computer, and like the life I'm living right now is like The Matrix.
You're a battery. Did you not know that?
A battery, yes, essentially. I'm a battery.
You're a battery and an Oculus.
So how did Morpheus get out of the Matrix is my question.
Oh boy.
How did he start this?
I don't know.
You actually want an answer?
No, wasn't he? Actually, I don't remember. Wasn't he?
He was rescued.
Yeah,
he was rescued by the One. The One has been several ones. It's not only Neo. There's been several Neo type guys, Jesus type characters,
the saviors,
and they rescued people out of the Matrix. So I don't know what number he is. I forget, but he's at least 3 or 4 or something like that in terms of the Jesus character.
Interesting. Yeah, it's really interesting.
I mean, the whole concept behind the Matrix is very interesting in that we're all living in this, and it makes sense. It's like, think about it this way: instead of you as a battery, you're just a taxpayer. You're providing labor into the system, and the system rewards you with these short-term dopamine hits. And like if things become too unstable, they lose control over you. And everyone has this thing where everyone is looking for a messiah, someone to come and save them, right? And it's just this, it's a really, really interesting concept.
AKA carp.
Waiting for
Yeah,
carp.
apparently.
No, it's Vlad. It would be Vlad. at this
Vlad or carp.
Speaking of taxes, I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. Well, this will be the last topic we can end it off on. Mark Cuban is going to pay $275 million tomorrow or today.
And it funds the
Today.
government for like.
If he pays tomorrow, he's late. He owes another million.
So,
Did you see that?
his comment was, I don't expect it to be used wisely, but I'm proud to give back to my country. Do you agree this is the sentiment our billionaire elite class should have when it comes to paying taxes?
What's funny is someone posted.
Or is this like a
under that-
beta cuck way to think about taxes?
Someone posted under that'll fund at the current rate of spending. That'll fund the government for I think 25 minutes.
Yeah, but that's one guy. Remember that.
But
What do you
still,
think? Do you think we should be
$288 million, 25 minutes.
should we
25
be
I think
happy to pay taxes? That's my question.
Huh?
Should we be happy to support this country and give back for all the freedoms it's given us by paying taxes?
Look, I don't mind paying my fair share of taxes. My only thing is I really don't want to see my tax dollars go to waste in things that are just every day. I turn on social media and I really am trying to get away from social media as much as possible, like just not watching things, because it's sickening to see how the government creates problems and then throws, like, literally they spend money to create problems and they spend more money to solve those problems, in which case they cause more problems. And it's just like, this is where I feel like I fucking am out of the matrix, where I see you guys doing dumb shit with our money, so it's one thing like being proud and saying, yeah, here you go, government, help people, feed people, house people. And then at the same time, you're kind of just basically taking the money and fucking up the country with it, and you're making it worse. So
I think they should give us an invoice at the end of the year. Or
they
like
do give us an
a
invoice. No one
breakdown-
looks.
a breakdown.
No, don't say that.
taxes.
Don't say that. No, don't say that. They have an invoice, okay? You go to the Congressional Budget Office. They have a website. They tell you exactly line by line how much money they spent on what, everything. It's just no one looks at it. That's a Cardi B argument, and I'm not going to accept it anymore.
No, but they
Cardi
should
B's
send
like,
each person there. They should send each person that broken down based on how much of their money went into it. I hear what you're saying. The actual budget's available online.
Palantir could design that software for them. Actually,
It would be pretty easy because you're basically just taking the budget, dividing it by the number of taxpayers. But
Palantir is a hedge against bad taxes, dude, because they get so much of the government money. But anyway,
what are they not a bad hedge?
How does it feel to be leader of a cult?
it feels great, to be honest. Like, we're going to the moon here. But here's my thing: even though we know our money's going to be misused,
If that moon ends at $17, yeah.
I hope not. Even though we know our money's going to be misused, should we still be grateful to give them our money?
I don't know about grateful, but I think it's fair for us to pay a certain amount into the system that we are all participating and benefiting from. But obviously, we all try to minimize it. So that's just the way it works.
dude.
But is it this fair thing? No, it's like, but everybody should pay into it, obviously. What that is, I don't get to decide. So the government says what I get to sort of pay based on what I'm doing. And as an investor and a real estate owner, by the way, I get certain tax benefits that people don't. You could say that's unfair, but that's what it is.
Well, it's just interesting because, like, we all went to public school, right? Like, the only reason we got educated was because of someone else that paid for it at the end of the day. So it's always an interesting way, but we're all entrepreneurs.
Well, we're assuming we paid for it. Our parents who worked hard, they paid into the system. So our kids, so all of us can go to public school and end up on YouTube.
Yes, that's true. But
how would you guys feel about a flat tax, 25%, everybody?
I don't think it would work, dude.
You think a billionaires, if you do what Mark Cuban is actually paying in terms of percentage, it's probably 5%.
Yeah.
He's not paying 25%.
But he probably has very little income. I mean, you could actually find his tax bracket.
Mark Cuban would never go for that, by the way.
But a 25% tax on income, not wealth, income.
well, technically speaking, it wouldn't work for one reason. 50% of the country right now doesn't really pay taxes.
Yeah.
If you make a certain under a certain amount, there's no real fat tax dollars that you're paying out of pocket. You know, you look at a lot of these
Yeah, most
retirees.
people, we wouldn't. We
How are you?
wouldn't
How would
about
you?
those people.
Yeah. How would you tax retirees? You know, who are living on a fixed income? Are they going to pay 25% of their money too? You
No, I
know?
think you would do that. I think you would obviously feather out the both ends of the spectrum.
You
But
Yeah,
still
but
need the
that's
you still need the
how it
poverty
starts.
level or the 40,000 or under or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
like you could
Yeah.
maybe make like 3 tax brackets or whatever it is, or write something specific for to handle.
Which
those.
is exactly what we have right now. You just
No,
said.
no, no.
Great.
What we have is like a thing of this with write-offs and add this number and do this
So-
cost if you get this. And
so
Welcome
that's
to
where-
actuarial junkies.
Yeah.
What's the point of this?
So that's where the government really like sometimes steps up and then really takes a step back, where they do provide a lot of tax benefits to certain industries and certain people, which you may not agree. Like, here's the thing: I don't agree with certain things around like a mortgage tax deduction for people making over a certain amount of money. Like, they shouldn't be allowed to take all of that excess interest income and use that against their taxes, but they can. Like, why would you subsidize a millionaire who's making a crap ton of money and say, oh no, it's okay, his mortgage interest is tax deductible? No, you got to put a limit, you know. And I think there is a limit, by the way. I think it's just really set really high. So I think what has happened is a lot of these special interest groups, they've really come into the system and they've been able to work the system to make it really, really beneficial to them, and they know all the loopholes. And then you have like an army of freaking accountants and lawyers that you can hire to just mitigate all your taxes. And so I think the intent of taxes is to get people to pay a quote unquote fair share, but they leave out so many carve outs into the tax code that no one really does pay their fair share. And by the way, I think poor people should fucking pay some in taxes. I'll be honest. I think if you don't put anything into the pot,
So
then you have no
you're saying
accountability
if you make
whatsoever.
$26,000, you should.
Yes.
Two of those.
If you're
thousands
making
is-
26,000, you should at least put 1,000 into the pot. There should be a
Wow, that's
minimum
a lot.
tax.
But I
I
don't
think
know.
That's
there's
a
a
big
minimum-
percentage of your income.
I disagree
Let me-
because that person is still paying sales tax whenever they buy something. They're still paying
That's
gas
true.
tax.
That's
You know,
true.
they're still
That's true.
paying taxes and they're
Yeah.
still contributing. And you could say to yourself, I mean, that $1,000 or $2,000 for them, it could be the difference between, you know.
That's true. But
Right.
I always feel like I just genuinely feel like if you don't contribute anything to taxes, if you don't contribute anything into the country, then you really don't have appreciation for the stuff. Like, we pay taxes. That's why we're like, hey, disappointed when we see crazy shit happen, and and basically would like, hey, the government shouldn't be doing this. The government should be that. So there's equity that we have into this experiment. Whereas someone who doesn't pay any taxes, they don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Well,
They'll-
so
they'll
everybody
graffiti on the
pays
wall.
everybody pays taxes, by the way, because you take your car over a toll road, you're paying. You get gas at the pump, you're paying. You go to the store, you're paying 8.5%.
That's true. That's true. Let me take.
I think
a step
everybody
back. That
pays
is absolutely
taxes.
true. Yeah,
And
that
if
is true.
you calculate what your true tax rate is with all of those taxes, because sure, you don't, whatever you pay,
50%.
stay, but the moment you try to
Yeah.
spend money, there's the tax associated with
Yeah.
that. It's going to be more like 50%.
If we're going to say anything, I think income tax should go away, and then I actually agree that it should be more on
It's the other
government.
tax. Yeah, I agree.
Well,
Usage
paying
tax,
for
On consumption, more based on
consumption tax.
consumption.
I mean, that seems to
You use more, you pay more. That's
I
just
mean,
the way.
that seems to make more sense. And I also think that the spending is a problem. Like, there should be some kind of sort of clause in there. Like, if we're paying our taxes, you have to, whoever's in office when you pay those taxes should have to balance the budget, right? They should have to balance it, because
So they're never going to do that.
they're basically gonna write checks that someone 2 or 3 years, 4 years down the line is gonna have to cash, and they're long gone.
This is why in this country, dude, you got to get the money. That's the only thing that matters. in this country.
I do have to say one thing, and that person that right there, that they made a really good point. Collision Man 14. Poor people don't always choose to be poor. Mental illness and shitty circumstances. I totally agree. I do want to take a step back and say I do apologize. There are people that do have some mental health issues, that have a lot of issues, but this is where I think we as
They
a
should pay their
nation-
fair share of taxes.
No, I mean, I think this is the one place where I think we've really failed. I think we need to have more mental health asylums. Like, literally, I feel like there are so many people they're just never going to be able to like be part of society. And what are you going to do?
Teledoc, dude, that fucking, they got a lot
Just
of
leave
telehealth
him?
bullshit.
No. Telehealth is not going to help. I'm talking about back in the day, they used to actually have insane asylums where you put someone who you just know that they're not going to be able to be part of society. You know, you just like I look at New York City right now. If you take the train into the city, you're going to see some crazy shit. Okay, and these people, they're not going to be like little crazy. I'm talking about they'll sucker punch you in the face for no reason crazy.
Yeah, dude.
And the thing is, back in the day, they used to institutionalize these people. You know, now, no, it's go ahead, it's fine. You know, you're just a bad person. You know,
they
hey,
arrest
we
them
don't
for
even
like
need a bail.
1 minute and then release them.
Right. So like,
I mean,
what's the point? Like, this is one of those things that just doesn't make sense to me. That if a
Look at
crazy
private
person's out here punching babies in the face, your response is, okay, don't worry about it. You know, come to they. They actually expect these people to come back to face justice in the court. Like, come on. It just
I sent him the link of that video you posted where even some of these blue cities have finally had enough.
Let me play this.
It is time that we get serious about public safety in Los Angeles. As the councilwoman for the 11th district and as a resident myself, I am sick and tired of living in the middle of a failed social experiment. We have all had enough. Enough with the ridiculous soft on crime, defund the police, catch and release, harm reduction. Criminals are the victims' policies that got us into this mess. Enough. I stand with the victims of these horrific crimes, my friends, my neighbors, and my constituents in Council District 11 in calling on our city's leaders to continue investing in public safety and ensuring that our police department has all the personnel and every tool and every resource that it needs to keep Los Angeles safe. Thank you.
All right.
I'll start this off. Democrats are finally waking up. Like, do you know the Anna Kasparian from the
Yeah.
Young
Yeah,
Turks?
she's getting red pill.
Yo,
Watching her,
she's gone super
about
red.
Chicago. Did you see what she?
I didn't see what she posted.
She was like, Chicago had 21 murders or something this weekend. Two kids were killed, but none of it makes the news. Like, what the fuck? You know,
Dude,
what
she's getting so because one day she said someone was pregnant and they were like
birthing persons.
they're
and
like, hey, don't say that's a
stuff.
pregnant woman, say it's a birthing person. That's when she lost almost like 10 years of liberalism.
right.
And
Yeah.
ever since then, she's like getting a little
like,
bit
all
more
right.
conservative. Like
Yeah.
wild, dude.
Bill Maher too. Bill Maher has gone a little
Oh,
bit.
What did he say this weekend? I
he's
heard
on the
people were talking-
verge.
What did he say that got people upset?
Well,
Hmm?
we would say recently.
Yeah, I thought over the weekend he said
He's calling out woke. You know, he's
Okay.
talking about the.
He's
idea
always
of-
been calling them out, though.
Well,
He's
his
like-
last one where he went off script, he was saying the left has gone so far extreme that even people like me who consider myself left of center have now been forced to where I'm extreme right. And he apparently he was off script when he was saying that. But that
I
was
think he also said something about 3-year-olds not being able to get transgender surgeries, and he's like, the rest of the world isn't doing it anymore, and the U.S. is still the only country that's like, oh, your kid feels like trans. Okay, 3 years old, go ahead, trans them up. And it's like,
let's end on this question. If you had Mark Cuban's wealth, let's say a couple $1 billion, would you donate tens of millions a year to the charities you want to donate, or would you try to hoard it because you know you have to pay so much in taxes? Like, would you be more altruistic if you had that money, or no? I think I would. I think I would give more money away if I had that much wealth.
I think I would do a better job of spending
Because
that
it'd be a
money.
tax write-off, bitches. No one laughed. Such a good joke. No one fucking laughed. Okay. Anyway,
I do a better job.
You're like, I'll start my own church.
No, I would give more money though. I think I would give more money. Chris?
I wouldn't give money to charities. I would probably do something along the lines of what Mr. Beast is doing, where he goes there and does the work himself directly with the people
And makes a video.
directly, and then makes
makes
a
money
video.
off that
Dead
video.
serious. And then make the video.
20
and
million off that
I
video.
would not give money to some charity. Some random.
There's
We
a few
gave away a
organizations-
Tesla to some poor African guy. And that's, you know.
Right, so guy FSD.
There's a few organizations I really do want to give back to, like the people don't know this, but the National Speech and Debate Association. Like that is the organization is the reason why I had a successful debate career. I would want to give them $10 million to help the next generation of kids become debaters. You know, like that would be cool to do, but you need money to do that stuff. Chris, what would you do?
I'd probably try to do my own charity work rather than, because I mean, you look at some of, okay, as an example, you look at how much money California spends on some of these charities to help the homeless, and then you look at their organization and these nonprofits. Some of their directors are making like 500 grand a year. It's like, what the hell?
It's ridiculous.
And it's just ridiculous. So most of the money technically is just being funneled into the bureaucracy of a system rather than the actual people. So, you know, sometimes you have to just do the work. I agree with Carlos and you. We have to just do the work on the ground, you know, get really involved, because that's what charity work really is. Being involved at the ground level, holding people accountable, you know, seeing that the results are actually happening. If the results are not happening, be able to take that money back, you know, and say, you know what? No, you're not getting next quarter's thing because you weren't able to. Like, imagine doing something stupid and then keep getting more money next year. That's what's essentially happening in California sometimes. You look at it, you're like, you're seeing these tent cities, you're seeing drug addicts. I thought the point is you spend all this money so that it mitigates the problem, not make it worse. And so we know what their solution is. Next year, let's give them more money. It's like, no, stop. You could have built an entire you could have built homes for these people, you know? And
So
it's
there's a story actually. TJ Rogers from Enphase fame, he had a event where he talked about, basically he was trying to help California out. I forgot what city. He said, I was trying to build 100 homes, do a pilot experiment. I talked to the mayor of the city, and I was going to pay for all the homes. All they needed to do was give me the land. Okay. Just where can I put these homes? He goes, I was going to pay for everything, make small little houses, give them to the homeless, put solar on them. He was going all out. They didn't have to pay for anything. They wouldn't even do that with him. Okay. They have no incentive. As soon as they got a hold of some billionaire trying to do something, they were trying to get their own little fingers into him. And the whole project basically fell apart for a guy who's going to pay for the whole thing.
So nonprofits are usually corrupt, is what you're saying.
Well, wasn't there?
Well, in this case, he was the nonprofit, quote unquote, but this
Right.
was the city itself trying to get their fingers into his money and do other things with it than what he wanted to do was help the homeless, build them actual homes. So I think there's people who want to solve the problem, but the cities themselves are stopping, you know, people from solving it.
Remember
I do
when
want- yeah.
Elon bought Twitter and then they said you could end world hunger?
Yeah, it was
And
so
then he
stupid.
said, and then he said, show me the plan, like literally respond here with the plan, and
Right.
I'll write the check. And from what I understand, it never materialized. So
Being an entrepreneur and making jobs for people is a way of giving back to society. It's a really good way. You know?
Yeah, but by the way, I do want to say not all nonprofits are bad. Some of them are actually really good.
Yes.
They serve a purpose. They really do well. It's just in this modern society that we have, sometimes it's people are corruptible in so many ways that I don't know. People just don't necessarily. I need to get
I
some
feel
sleep,
you.
man.
All right.
All right. We'll do stream link on Thursday, guys. So we'll open the stream on Thursday. And
then we've got the halving on Friday. You
oh, really? Okay. So we'll do a halving
Friday.
special.
So, well,
Pre-halving.
we should, yeah,
A
we should do that.
24-hour stream.
Or we could stream Friday too. I'll be
No, how about we get on the stream and we don't end the stream till Bitcoin's at 100,000? That's it, guys.
Boys.
my fucking Robinhood options to print.
Right,
Come on, let's do it.
I honestly now I think that's not happening at the halving. And I think that's gonna I think that's probably happening in sometime in the fall, November, sometime.
No,
then.
but we were talking to Jesse. We should see what he's doing because that'll be a big thing. Maybe we just do like a special
Dude,
show.
if we sell off to 40K
Get
with
with the
Vitaly,
thing,
right?
get 10 or 2.
I think we are
What if-
going to sell up to 40K.
What if
I
what if the halving is halving the price of Bitcoin?
No, I think that's happening. I know
That-
we're kidding around, but that's what happens. Bitcoin usually tanks 30 to 50%. That does happen during bull runs.
It's 30%. But actually,
I know, but
the real quick thing, the news in crypto today is that Ethereum broke down against Bitcoin today. So that's not a good sign. Okay. Which means that Ethereum dropped down below its lowest level since 2022, which means that now this theory that the altcoins are breaking down and Bitcoin's last remaining source of liquidity, the altcoins, is drying up, which means whatever little rally we see now will probably be it for a while. The whole altcoin market hasn't broke down, but ETH did today.
Amit, just remember this thing: when it goes to 40K and you don't buy, you don't deserve the 120K Bitcoin. Or maybe that's when you buy. Who knows?
If it gets to 40K, I'll buy some.
No, you won't.
Yes, I will. I'll buy some.
No, you
I
won't.
doubt it.
Guys,
40K?
before we go, commercial real estate. I'm telling you,
No, me and Chris
Everyone's
will
gotta
be
get-
on it soon. Me and
Everyone's got to
Chris
get their
will be
pitch
on
in.
it.
we have to look at commercial real. For God's sakes,
Thursday.
Things
Okay,
are-
Thursday.
things
Thursday.
are flipping in the background that no one seems to really take account of. The media is just constantly pumping out all this fucking FUD about, oh, look at this building. It went for sale for 1.3. There is a
You saw that one,
bottoming
200
happening
million in
commercial.
86,
Yeah,
and then it sold
Chris
for
talked
3
about it.
million.
In 2006, it sold for
2000, yeah.
200 million, and
Yeah.
it got sold. Yeah, because it's got a giant mortgage on the damn
All right,
thing.
we'll talk.
and
We'll
it's an
talk. We'll
old-ass
talk on
building.
Thursday. We'll talk on Thursday.
But real quick, how many people would move into a building? We should buy a building. How many people think Junkies should put our money together and buy a building? And would
If
you
we
live
did
in-
our own REIT,
would
raise
you
your
live
hand in
in
the
that?
comments.
Would you live in that building with us as the
We
landlord?
got to raise money like Adam Newman and make it a series.
Yo, every once a month, I've been going
Nah,
around.
bro,
collecting rent
just
money.
put the money in Chris Patel Fund, bro. Venture capital, man. You know, I'll buy all the REITs for you guys. All right,
That's
you don't
fine.
need to do any work whatsoever.
I'll be at the pool.
All right, guys. We'll see you Thursday night. Bye, everyone.
All right, bye.
Later.
Bye.